Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Super Lunch Roast Podcast, episode number 83. I am Brendan, alone again after the biggest UFC event probably this year. Pretty much this year is what I was going to say, but probably, I think so far this year, this might be the biggest UFC event. I am, of course, talking about UFC 268, Usman versus Covington, Dose. We talked about it last week. Did a little bit of the preview. I don't know. I didn't really make too many hardcore predictions. I gave my percentages like I usually do, and I'd have to go back and watch them again. I'm pretty sure I got them right. Like they went the way I thought they would go. Right, there were no big surprises to me, with the exception of I guess how the main event went. Right, with how close it really was. We will get into that. So before we start going into the fights, also Canelo won. He beat Caleb Plant. We need to find a challenge for him to make this interesting. All right, so before we get started, please like. If you like what I'm doing, if you like the UFC, if you like MMA, please like. If you like listening to me, please subscribe. I do this every week. I release pretty much on every Sunday. Sometimes I delay them till Monday, depending on what the fights are. If there are no fights, we'll find some. We'll talk about old ones. We have the Karate Kid spinoff, the Cobra Kai. We are going to be talking about that in a couple weeks because the new release, the release of season 3 in December. So we will be going over the first 2 seasons. Hopefully Nate will be on board for that. Hopefully his schedule clears back up again. Please like, subscribe. Please, I really mean this. If you like what I'm doing, please tell somebody else about it. Like I really would appreciate if, more people would interact. I finally get some more healthy discussion going on, talking about fights. I really love this stuff. I really appreciate everybody who has given me feedback. I appreciate it a lot. All right, let's get into this. So, of course, we're going to talk about the very first fight of the night. Nope. No, we're not. We're going to talk about the main event, the very last fight of the night. Okay, so which, of course, was Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. You got old Marty. Marty versus Colby. I know he hates that name, but I still think it's funny. So, a very, very close fight, by the way, guys. Here, this was not a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. Yes, if you want to talk about who landed bigger shots, like more powerful shots, I think Usman landed those, and obviously in round 2 when he did drop him, that was a big difference. But first round, Usman seemed to get the better of the first round. I definitely gave him the first round, and Covington seemed a little more tentative. But if you look at the striking numbers here, I mean, we're not talking about a blowout. We're talking about 13-17. So he landed 4 more significant strikes that Usman did in the first round. Second round was the big difference maker, right? This is the one that could have been or should have been a 10-8. I would agree and expect that one to go that way. Round 3 is really where it started to turn around, okay? Usman didn't slow down or anything, but Covington started to pick it back up, and it kind of looked like the first fight again. Covington, in my opinion, did enough in round 3 to warrant a win in that round. I don't know if I've watched it twice now. It's hard for me because Usman lands these big, powerful shots, but Covington was driving him against the fence, landing some good ones of his own. He did get a takedown, even though they didn't score it as one. We see here 0 of 11 on takedowns. That is bullcrap. It was called out on the broadcast. He got his back, took him down to his hands and knees. That's a takedown. He also, Kamaru Usman grabbed the fence at one point. It was right at the end of the round, so it was insignificant. It's still a rule violation. You know how I feel about those. I'm pretty stringent on those. Like how the round went, I would probably still give it to Usman because for me, he won most of the round, but Covington has an argument there, okay? And then round 4, clearly Covington's round. Is again, very close round. It wasn't a blowout, but clearly Covington's. He started landing bigger shots. He wobbled Usman multiple times. I think he did more damage in the 4th round, even though he didn't do much. I wouldn't say he didn't do more visible damage overall in the whole fight. Did a good job in that round, though. And then the 5th round, super, super close, man. Like, razor thin. Like, this is one of those ones, like, I guess you could lean towards Usman or Covington, depending on what you're looking for. Covington did land a couple like good shots where Usman, like he got the best of Usman again, and I don't think Usman did enough in that 5th round to really rock Covington or show his dominance. So it was very close, and then he did get an eye poke that it got the pause, right, but no points were taken, so that could have been significant. In the end, it probably wouldn't have been because of the way it was scored. As far as I'm concerned, I think the right guy won this fight. If you judge the fight as a whole, actually, it would have mattered. It would have been a draw. So this guy, Derek, clearly, he's on something. I don't know how you can make an argument. Like I said, there are close rounds, but it's really hard for me to like definitively say Usman won 4. At best, I give him 3. But really, there's also an argument for a draw here, 48-48. With Covington winning the final 3 rounds, and because Usman did get a 10-8, he should have had a 10-8 in that second round with a near stoppage. Dude, how fucking tough is Covington? For all the bullshit aside, and, they embraced after the fight. You could overhear Covington saying, like, hey, this was about money. We got our money, nothing but respect, and, like, all that stuff. And then... they respect each other for like 5 minutes, and then it's back to shit talking. So, like I said, for whatever you think, like, I'm not a fan of Colby Covington's shtick. I don't like it. I like his fight style. Kamaru Usman, I like his fight style more recently, ever since he's been with Whitman. I agree. I enjoy watching his fights more often because of how technical he's become, even though he is. Here's the thing, like, he is hittable. And we've seen it. If you can withstand the pressure and the wrestling, right? If you have enough, like, because Covington was forward wrestling, and yeah, he didn't get the best of the wrestling, but I'll tell you what, he wasn't dominated in the wrestling either. Like, Usman had to defend a lot of he had to work hard to make sure he wasn't taken down. Okay. Yes, they were good takedown. There was good takedown defense, and Usman's a monster to take down, but Covington was putting that pressure on forward. So it's going to take a special kind of guy to really put that pressure on, have the cardio to last if it does go that far, and then also, put the power on Usman. Because really, I think Burns probably, he could have won that fight if he didn't slip and fall. I mean, he got kicked in the butt, Covington landed a good shot here and rocked Usman pretty bad, and then dove in for a takedown, and then Usman got to rest for a second. So, Usman has been very intelligent about the way he fights, and I've enjoyed his fights more of late because of the different fighting style that he tends to be using. His shtick, I also don't like. This fake swagger, all this bullshit, I don't like any of it. After the fight, nothing but respect from him. I really like the way Usman was giving credit to Colby. I like the way Colby was talking respectfully about Usman. He was saying, he got the better of the fight. He wasn't really putting his opponent down. This elevates both fighters and keeps their value very high. If you tear down your opponent after a win, it devalues your win. So it's good to just talk up your opponent when they beat you, and it's good to talk up your opponent when you lose. Generally speaking, that works really well. This, it was a fantastic fight, fun to watch. Covington's tough as shit. Usman is tough as shit. The guy's like crazy cardio between these two. I think Covington, people really hate Covington because of his, like I said, because of his shtick, the stuff that he puts on, his persona, this fake ass bullshit that he does. And I understand it. I really do. People say he's racist and all this stuff. There's a weird bar for racism now that I still don't think he's crossed. I really don't. He said a lot of things, but I think people are just kind of projecting that onto Kobe because they want him to be racist because it makes him like another thing to hate, right? As he's a white guy and he's fighting a black guy, and they're like, oh, let's make him racist. Oh, and he's a Trump supporter, let's make him racist. I get that, his statements aren't the nicest. He says, Brazil, you're a dog. You've been nothing but, you treated me like shit and stuff. That's not racism, right? He's not talking specifically about a race. He's talking about a country and about how shitty they treated him and about how shitty the country is. Now, is that a nice thing to say? No. Is it xenophobic? Probably. But racist? No. And obviously it's all an act, right? I think people like to project that onto him because it makes him easier to hate, and I get it, Like I fully understand. I don't like his shtick either. I find it grating on me, like it's fucking annoying. But I also, at this point, I am so far removed from listening to fighters, like I can kind of tell when they're bullshitting. It's just funny to me now. Usman's is more annoying than it is funny because it's like people buy into it more. Like, whereas like Covington, I feel like people like understand it's bullshit. So I just think it's funny when he makes people mad. Whereas like people like cheer on Usman, like, and here's the thing, it's like they both seem like really good dudes. Like the stories you hear about Covington, the people that he hangs out with who don't hang out with douchebags, like these other people that he trains with, these other people that are really good human beings, and the stuff that he does, the donating his time, his whatever. I don't know if he's donated money. I'm sure there's stories out there about that. Just being like a good training partner when he was, where Usman taking care of his family, loving his dad, and like wanting to get out of jail, like all this stuff, man. They both seem like real stand-up fellows, and it's unfortunate that they have to put on this persona to make the amount of money and get the amount of notoriety and attention that they have. So, my takeaway from this fight is Colby Covington is clearly the second best welterweight in the world right now, and Usman is clearly the best so far. Like, I don't see anybody in that division who is clearly a number one unless it's Gilbert Burns, right? Obviously, I think Gilbert Burns deserves a title rematch next. It's just it makes sense. He took away Stephen Thompson's title shot. I think he kind of stole it from him. Good, and he stole it from him. Like he won. So I think maybe we'll do that next. And as far as Colby, he's calling out Jorge Masvidal. So let's do that. I think Jorge has gotten a lot more credit than he deserves, even though he's a good fighter. I just think he doesn't deserve the ranking that he currently has. But Jorge's got to fight Leon Edwards first. So we'll see what happens with that one. But that's most likely what's going to happen. Leon Edwards probably going to be vying for the title shot if he does beat Jorge Masvidal. But if he loses to Jorge Masvidal, like he's not getting a title shot next. So Khamzat might pass Leon Edwards up, or Khamzat, sorry. All right, great fight, by the way. This is a great night of fights, all in all. Here's one that was also very close. So we had the co-main event here. We had Rose Namajunas taking on, who is currently the strawweight champ, obviously, after she knocked out Zhang Weili. And she got the split decision win. A lot of people were giving Weili the first 3 rounds, clearly. I think the second round was where she got... So the first round was real close. Second round, Rose did. I think Rose had the lead for me, but the way that I think she got rocked in the second round, and that kind of obviously stole the round for Weili. Third round clearly Zhang's. Obviously the strike count doesn't mean everything, but if you watch it back, it does. And then the last 2 rounds were definitely Rose. So that the real unknown here is the second round. And again, here Eric. Cologne here giving her 4 rounds. That's unreal. I think it's the same person who gave Usman 4 rounds. I don't know what he's watching, but there's no way. Also another good fight. Namajunas looked great. It was close enough to where I'm not mad. There's no robbery here. This was not Zhang being in the U.S. and that's why she lost or anything like that. Now this being in China or somewhere else, maybe she gets more of a pop and questionable judging, so maybe it goes the other way or something like that. But Zhang got on the right side of a split decision against oh my goodness, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So she got the win in that one, right? She was on the right side of that 50-50 split. So this time she's on the wrong side. This is what happens. I don't mean this in a way where like shouldn't let it go to the scorecards or anything, but I really mean this in this way is like she doesn't do anything in these fights to really put herself way out in front of her opponents, then, it's hard to guarantee a victory like that. She doesn't seem too sour about it yet. I haven't heard any really bad excuses, so not a lot of negative publicity like last time, which was warranted, by the way. You can't complain about fucking booing and then be like, "Oh, it was surprising." Like, shut up. That's so stupid. That's nothing but an excuse. That is so dumb. Also, why the hell was Halle Berry there? The fuck? I understand that she's doing a movie, bruised or banged up or whatever fucking movie it is. I don't give a shit. She should not be in there putting the thing. I didn't like it when The Rock did it. I don't like it when she does it. Like, it's even, gross. The Rock did it for the BMF belt, so it was a bullshit belt anyway. This was for an actual title fight with a real belt on the line. It felt gross and weird, especially during the face-off when she's like flexing. Halle Berry does not fucking belong in there. That'd be like a ring card girl up there like fucking flexing in between two fighters. It looks weird. It's off-putting. Also, this pay-per-view set the record for most significant strikes on a pay-per-view, so pretty cool. Marlin Vera versus Frankie Yeager. I'll pull up the stats for you here. I think Frankie Yeager easily won round one. Round two was pretty close. I would probably give the second round to Frankie, but, I could see it going Marlon Vera's way just because he did more damage. And then the third round was pretty even as well. But then Marlon Vera ends up, and he's flicking him off and stuff, and he lands like a front kick. And I think it was an early stoppage. I think he probably would have got the win anyway, but Edgar immediately is protesting. He's like, "What the fuck? Why'd you stop the fight?" I agree with him. Like, let him try to defend at least a little bit. Like, I really have a problem when referees see a hard shot, a guy go down, and then they immediately step in when they don't wait for like a reaction. And that's the problem. Like, I understand that he's in there closer. Maybe he made a better decision than I thought, and the broadcast team was on board with it. I don't think it was a egregiously early. I just think it was a little bit early. Like, let him at least try to defend something. Give him a chance to show that he's intelligently defending himself, please. It's fucking Frankie Edgar, for God's sakes. I never liked Marlon Vera. I don't like Cheeto. He's got a really negative attitude. He's a sourpuss. He's flicking people off when he fights, like I said. He was getting dominated on the ground, and he's also like, he makes excuses for his losses, and he's one of those fighters who gets pissed off when other fighters are like doing things that he doesn't like. They're like doing takedowns and keeping him on the ground. Like, fuck you. All right. When Paul Daly does it, everybody criticizes him. When Vera does it, like, oh, that's just him being him. Oh, he's what a character this guy is. Like, Paul Daly was complaining when John Fitch was taking him down over and over again and calling him boring, and everybody was like, well, yeah, do something about it and get up, you loser. But when Marlon Vera does it, like, oh, look at him, what a personality, what a funny guy, oh, he's so silly. No, he's a fucking sourpuss and a negative person. He's got a negative fucking attitude, and it's annoying. I can't stand negative people like that, man. Like, I know, like, I'm saying negative things about it, and it sounds like a little bit ironic. But generally speaking, I find fighters who are negative really unpleasant. I would like guys to be more positive in general, both in win and loss. Obviously, a loss, I understand some pessimism or negativity. It's a big moment. But, these guys who are coming off of wins and during the fight being like fucking assholes. There's a difference when a guy is pumping himself up. Like, we'll talk about it later, like Bobby Green, when he's talking shit in there and like trying to get in his opponent's head and saying nothing's happening. Like, that's how he fights. And he's saying, come on, let's go. And like, that kind of thing is different than like flicking him off. And even when Costa was doing it a few weeks ago, they're like, meh, like, oh, that didn't do anything. You just kicked me in the face. Meh. Oh, you kicked me again. Meh. But he's not throwing anything back. That's different because, again, he's playing a mental game, whereas Marlon Vera is just being just fucking negative Nancy. Like, it's just gross, and I can't stand it. All right, let's talk about another banger of a fight here. Like I said, this card was fucking crazy good. All right, if you didn't watch it and you don't want to pay for the pay-per-view, that's fine. It'll probably be around on ESPN Plus in like a couple weeks. I recommend going back and watching it. It is worth the watch. Not the least of which for the first card or the first fight on the card. We will get to that. I have not a lot to say. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just super excited. Shane Burgos taking on Billy Quarantillo. Shane Burgos kind of was getting beat up in the first round. Both guys were going after the leg. Burgos had some cleaner boxing. He looked better when he was in there, but Billy was able to make the fight dirty. Shane got him on the cage and was able to control a little bit, but Burgos got bloodied up in that first round, and if you look at the stats here, like, he did get outlanded in that first round. I think Quarantillo won that first round. Yeah, he was less accurate, but I've said this before, accuracy doesn't mean shit if you are getting outlanded. I know if we go 1-for-1 as far as punches landed, and I throw 30 more shots than you, if anything, I am ahead of you because I'm showing more aggression and I'm trying to actively end the fight, right? Missed shots are still offense, right? Defense is its own reward. Defense is not points. Offense is points, regardless of whether or not it's landed or effective. It's still offense. So when, like a guy like Quarantillo is making this dirty, throwing dirty boxing, doesn't look as pretty, but he's landing more. He's bloodying up Burgos. He's doing more work. Well, Burgos was landing more to the legs, and that's kind of accounted for in the second round and in the first round, kind of the striking difference, and he was able to kind of start putting it on Quarantillo. And then, what was weird is, the commentary was missing a lot of what Burgos was doing, especially in the second when they were talking up Quarantillo quite a bit, but Burgos was outstriking him in the second round. And you can see this here. It played out pretty much just like I said, just like I'm talking about, not like I said, like I predicted or anything. 82-54. Burgos did more work in the second round, but all they were talking about was Quarantillo. And I think it was like a left kind of holdover from sorry, if I keep touching my face, it's weird. I haven't had a clean face in 2 years, and the little hairs on my face it's kind of strange to me. That's all. Sorry. It's distracting me too. So he outlanded him 82-54, and he did a lot of really good work, and it wasn't brought up until the end in the third round when Burgos really started pulling away. I know the third round striking numbers are closer, but Burgos landed more of the big shots, especially at the end, and he rocked him. He rocked Quarantillo at the end of the second round. Billy had pretty much one leg to work on in the third round, but Quarantillo just kept pressing forward, and dude, it was crazy. And this fight set the record for most strikes in a featherweight fight, 3-round featherweight fight. Max Holloway has all the 5-round records. So, fun fight. Right guy won the fight. Burgos did win. The commentary kind of got to play hindsight on this one, where they went back and were like, "Oh, hey, Burgos was doing a lot of good work and stuff," but while it was going on, they were kind of missing that stuff. And like I said, that happens a lot with commentary, and that's why Joe Rogan. He says it all the time. He's like, it's really hard to score a fight while you're trying to comment on it, because you're not being as analytical. You're trying to talk about the things that are happening, and while you're doing that, your brain innately wants to look for that thing that you just said. Like, if you're seeing a thing, you're gonna see that. You're gonna look for that more often, right? And it famously happened with Mighty Mouse Johnson, right? Where no matter what he did, Joe Rogan just talked nothing but positive about him, right? No matter what was happening. And, for good reason, because he was so dominant in so many of his fights. But there were moments where he wasn't as dominant, and he was still talking him up. And Tim Elliott fight is famous for that. So I understand what they're doing, and it's not an easy job. I get that, blah, blah, blah. It's funny to see how quick they get to turn while they're talking and be like, "Oh, Burgos is crazy." I think we can probably look at the rankings here, because I think he was. Let's see. I think he was ranked number 14 before the weekend. Yeah, he was. Look at me paying attention. So he did lose to Edson Barbosa recently. So, being 14th, I don't know how far he moves up. I don't know if he passes Evloev, because I think Evloev is coming off a win, so there's no reason. Alex Caceres made it in the rankings again. Hell yes. Woo! Man, love that. Again, it's like rankings don't mean much because the people doing them are silly. Generally speaking, I would probably keep him around this area. I wouldn't move him up. Want to have him fight Sodiq Yusuff? That'd be a fun fight. If he wants to fight in the top 10, Giga fight would be bananas. But Giga wants to move up. Dan Ige would be a fun fight. 50K. That'd be fun. All right, let's talk about my favorite fight of the night, because my favorite active fighter was fighting. I know I'm a huge Curtis Blades fan, and like he's one of my favorite fighters, but my favorite active fighter, like I said last week, is Justin Gaethje. He is, man. His nickname is The Highlight. It's unreal when your nickname is this goddamn accurate. It's so crazy. It's crazy. Like, look at this difference. Like, Kobe Chaos Covington. Does he really cause chaos in there? Not really. He's not chaotic. He puts a lot of pressure. He's got a lot of cardio, and he's a good fighter, but chaos isn't his thing. Calculated? Sure. Calm? Yeah. Forward pressure? Yep. Frantic? Possibly. Chaotic? No. Justin Gaethje, The Highlight? Uh-huh. And Michael Chandler, Iron Mike? Yeah. I know that's from Iron Mike Tyson. I get that. But, dude, how tough is Gaethje? Dude, Gaethje was starting with a few naked kicks in the first round, okay? So he was starting with a few naked kicks in the first round. Chandler landed a big shot with 1 minute, like 1 minute into the fight, and Justin gets wobbly. Justin kind of just looked a little stiff early on. And then both guys started trading low kicks against each other. Chandler was actually landing some big ones of his own, like big low kicks of his own. And then, Justin started landing a few check hooks and like rocking Chandler just a little bit, but Chandler landing some of the biggest shots I have ever seen a lightweight land. And he lands them right on Gaethje's chin. Gaethje goes wobbly, gets his back to the fence, and he's like, you're thinking, oh, he's going out. There's no way he makes it out of this round. And then he lands an uppercut of his own in tight, and then Chandler kind of shoots for his first takedown with 35 seconds left in the first round. Remember what he said? Gaethje said he's gonna shoot first. He's gonna turn into a wrestler, and he's gonna try and take me down. Everybody does. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. He was able to keep it on the feet, obviously. This is why he's my favorite fucking fighter. Dude, Gaethje, Chandler also tried to switch. He switched to southpaw for a few seconds, and at the end of the first round, you could tell that his left leg was real beat up. Dude, how good was that first round with both guys damaging each other? Like, I understand that, like, if you look at the striking, it also kind of tells the story, but you gotta watch it. You gotta go back and watch it. 40-49, and Gaethje being on the wrong end of that one. Dude, it's just unreal. Unreal how many strikes he landed. Like, big strikes, I mean, sorry. Like, how many big strikes Chandler landed on him, and you think he's just going out. I mean, look what he did to Hooker. Look what he did to Oliveira. Both those guys crumbled to their feet. Oliveira ended up surviving, barely, I might add. Like, that fight probably could have been stopped. But Oliveira survives and makes it to the second round and gets a finish or whatever. But Gaethje just stood there. Like, yeah, he was wobbly, but he just stood there. God dang. And he kept moving forward. He just did not stop. Then there's one point, I think it was in the second round, where Chandler lands his giant right hand and Gaethje just takes it and walks forward. It's unreal. Chandler was kind of sore on the left leg early in the second round, but he was still pressing forward, man. And then this is another thing. Like, Michael Chandler is tough as shit. Dude, he was getting rocked like crazy and just kept moving forward. He's putting his hands up, telling him to come on. Like, that's it was unreal. And then with 2 minutes into the second round, Gagey lands this huge uppercut and puts Chandler on his ass. And you think like, oh, dude, like Chandler was out, like his eyes rolled in the back of his head, and he looked like he was out. And you're like, oh, this fight's gonna be over. Chandler goes for a double leg, grabs the legs, goes for a takedown, and survives. And he just makes it through. Oh, there was a funny moment too where Chandler pokes Gagey in the eye. Mike Beltran didn't really see it, and then Gagey's pointing to his eye and turns and like Chandler like lands a big right hand on Gagey as he's holding his eye, and then he kind of stops it, and Mike Beltran goes over to him, and Gagey goes like, "Man, he fucking poked me in the eye," and Beltran goes, "You good?" And Gagey goes, "Yeah, I'm good." Fucking so stupid. God, that guy's crazy. So much fun to watch. The third round, Chandler got this really deep double leg lift, picks him up on his shoulder, and Justin did like a freaking front flip out of it, lands on his back, but then rolls through and gets on Chandler's back. That was fantastic. Chandler somehow kept moving forward and landing big shots, but Gagey was just cracking him in the third round too. So in the end, I don't think it was a close fight. I think there were moments that if you look as a whole, it could have gone either way, right? There were moments where, Chandler looked like he was going to win the fight, and he just didn't get it done. And then there were moments where Gagey looked like he was going to win the fight. But overall, I think Gagey definitely dominated the fight, I would say, especially in the second and the third round. It was all Gagey all day. Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. And if you look at his accuracy in the third round, I just noticed this. 38 of 46 significant strikes for Justin Gagey. 82%. So pretty much everything he was throwing was landing. He landed 40, 38, and 38. What consistent output. Those leg kicks were doing damage. Dude, just unbelievable. What's next for Justin Gagey is the title shot. Nothing else. He needs to fight for the lightweight belt. Whoever has it, that's who he called out. He's like, if Oliveira wins or Poirier wins, I'll fight Oliveira in Brazil, and I'll fight Poirier in Louisiana. I don't give a shit. Line them up. Let's go. Dude, he's the best. He really is. I know I love Beneil Dariush, and I said this last week, all this clamoring from Charles Oliveira, getting his title shot and blah, blah, blah. And Beneil Dariush is in that exact same boat. He needs to fight for a title shot. Because he's done exactly what Charles Oliveira has. And I will keep ringing this fucking bell until someone else listens to me, because I'm sick of the bias, because I don't think either one of them is more popular than the other. Like, they were not no-name fighters or anything, but they were fighting the same caliber of people. They're both really good jiu-jitsu guys who have picked up striking and have had exciting fights, and they're exactly the same. They fought the exact same caliber of people until Oliveira fought for the title, obviously, Michael Chandler. So what do you do with Beneil Dariush in this situation? Because Justin Gagey needs to fight for a title again. I would say give Beneil Dariush the loser of Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira, and give Justin Gagey the winner if Dariush is willing to sit out. If he's not willing to sit out, I guess Islam Makhachev is there, because, he's ranked number fucking 4 for some reason, because he's beat one person in the top 15. We talked about this last weekend. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Gregor Gillespie, I think, is a better matchup for Islam right now. I think it makes sense. Whatever. Anyway, let's go to the prelims real quick. Let's run through these fights. Again, they're all bangers. Or not all bangers. They're all decent fights. There are some bangers. Alex Pereira, who's this kickboxer, coming from Glory, being the only fighter in kickboxer in Glory history to be a 2-division champ at the same time. First round, Michelle working with Michelle, or not Michelle. It's not Michelle Pereira. That's a different guy. Alex Pereira has been working with Glover in Connecticut, Glover Teixeira. So I think they're both making each other better, where Alex gets a lot of the the grappling and MMA experience from Glover, and Glover gets a lot of the striking experience and gets to fight like one of the best kickboxers in the world. So that's pretty. I mean, I think that's a pretty good combo, and we saw it play out here. Andreas Michailidis went for takedowns the entire first round. I think he got him, and he kind of took his back a little bit, but he's never really had. I mean, he had control, and he won the first round. I don't see how you wouldn't give him the first round. I understand that he didn't land more, but he had a lot more. I mean, he had control the entire first round. Look at that. He had 4 minutes of control time in the first round. In the second round, on the other hand, not so much. There was what happened? So they were in the middle of the cage. And like it was like I don't know if he's going for a takedown or he's throwing a shot, but Alex throws this big jumping switch knee and got a huge knockout. So that's pretty exciting. Obviously, Alex is not most famous for, but as far as MMA fans, especially UFC fans, would know, he knocked out Israel Adesanya, last guy to really dominate Adesanya before Jan did. And in kickboxing. So that's, Adesanya's, bread and butter is kickboxing, and this guy can beat him in kickboxing. So, if he can make it up to that point and fight him for a title, like, I think that would be pretty interesting. We might see a guy who maybe isn't as well-rounded in MMA as Adesanya has become the champ because he's a better kickboxer than Adesanya. So we might see that. Bobby Green getting the win over Ali Aquinta. Bobby Green... Ali Quinta's been out for 2 years. You could see it. He was not as comfortable in there as he normally is. Just did not manage distance well. Green looked phenomenal, managing distance like he normally does pretty well, taking shots, taking him on the shoulder, doing the roll very well. And then Green threw this nice straight right hand, right on the button, just put him down and then got the TKO finish. Good win for Bobby Green. I think Bobby Green, let's see, is he still in the rankings? No, he's not. Wow, how much these rankings have changed. Remember when Ali Aquinta was in there too? Anyway, so Bobby Green's not in there anymore, but I could see him fighting someone in the top 15. Chris Curtis getting this really cool win. Obviously, he's had a long road for people who know about him. I did not beforehand. Chris Curtis has had a lot of fights. A lot of fights here. If you want to look at this, so if you look at the stats from this first round, he ended up getting the knockout. It's kind of a TKO, but anyway, Phil Hawes was dominating just at distance, doing everything he wanted to do, landing good straight right hands, good hooks to the body. Dude, he was just doing everything he wanted, good kicks to the body, everything, right? Look at the striking numbers, 48 of 90. So this dude was throwing everything, and yeah, he was only landing half of his shots, but dude, they were powerful, accurate, doing what he needed to do, precise, not accurate. Phil Hawes looked great, and then he didn't. He moved to the right. Chris Curtis caught him with a short hook right in the nose, like straight on in the face. It stumbled him, caught him again, and then Hawes, I don't know if he's off balance or he quit, but he just kind of like rolled over and fell down. It was very odd. And then Curtis ends up getting the TKO finish. I believe it was a TKO. Could be a knockout. Nasruddin Imavov versus Edmund Shabazian. It's a fun fight. And kind of Edmund looked okay, but he was just getting dominated in the grappling situation. And Imavov kind of puts him down, gets him in a crucifix, and elbows him to death. Ian Gary, this up-and-coming fighter from Ireland, gets a finish with 1 second left in the first round against Jordan Williams. Ian Gary is this Irish guy, and he, not calling out Conor McGregor, but shouting out to Conor McGregor. He met him once in a suit store that he worked in. Conor McGregor was coming in to buy a suit. There's a picture of him. It's really cool. I could probably pull that up. I don't know why I'm trying to describe a stupid picture to you. Yeah, this one. So anyway, this picture right here. Ugh, good grief. As Ian Gary recently became title holder in Cage Warriors, but this is him here on the right. I know you can't see my cursor, but that's Ian Gary working in the suit store. And he took a picture with Conor McGregor, and he said, I'm going to be the next Conor McGregor or whatever. This is him when he's younger, hopefully, because his head is tiny and his hand is tiny. So, anyway, he looked okay. He was just getting caught a lot. And Williams was actually doing a much better job. And then, because Gary was always looking for a counter, but Williams kept throwing, extending his combinations and throwing like 3-piece, 4-piece combos, double hooks, doubling up a hook on the same side. It was just making it very awkward for Gary to counter. And Gary was like moving straight back with his head up and kind of pulling his head back to get out of the way. And he just wasn't avoiding the shots, and he was getting caught quite a bit. And then he managed to slip one, plant his foot, throw that that counter right on the jaw. And then he stumbles Williams and then lands another right hand, and Williams goes down. Williams was very upset. He actively it was like he actually was screaming. Kind of rough to see that. Like Jordan Williams he worked his ass off. He won 4 minutes and 55 seconds, 4 minutes and 54 seconds of that first round, and then he just got caught. So it's a rough loss for Williams and a great UFC debut and win for Ian Gary. You know, he said, this is the takeover part 2. You know, that famous quote, we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. And he said, this is a takeover part 2. Chris Barnett. Fucking this big, fat heavyweight. He's a total goof. He comes in, he starts dancing. Comes in. Gian Vellante used to fight at middleweight and just let himself go. He was going to play. He was, had NFL aspirations. He's a great football coach in New York and whatever. And, then he got fatter and fought at light heavyweight. And then now he's even fatter and he fought at heavyweight. And this is his last fight, right? He said, this is my last fight. I'm retiring. I think we can probably look at his history. I don't think he was ever great. It's just, when I see pictures of him, it's crazy. What he used to look like versus what he looks like now. It's bananas. All right, so here's what he looks like. Here's what he used to look like. Okay. That's what he used to look like when he was fighting at middleweight. Right? Pretty shredded, pretty jacked. That's what he looked like. He's just gotten so fat. Like, he just doesn't give a shit anymore. He just doesn't belong at heavyweight. He doesn't. He doesn't. He's just gotten lazy. And it's just not a good sign when you see a guy just gaining weight for no reason, Rampage Jackson style, and I just don't want to cut weight anymore. I'm just going to fight and make money. Not a good sign as far as career aspirations. Obviously, if he's just trying to ride out his contract, make money, more power to him. Retiring when he wants to instead of when he has to. Also awesome. So I didn't even talk about the fight. Chris Barnett throws a spinning heel kick, catches Vellante on the side of the head, and then gets a TKO finish. It was not a straight knockout. It was an all right fight. It was fun. And then Barnett does a front flip and lands on his butt. It was laughing and having a great time. And then he shouts out Vellante afterwards and says, this guy's going to be in my camp. This is his town. He's retiring. He's a great football coach. It's fun, man. It's fun to see fighters like that who are just having a great time and they're laughing, smiling, that kind of stuff. And not a creepy way like Sam Alvey does, where he just smiles all the time. Milsic Bagdasaryan versus Bruno Souza. Weird fight. You got two strikers in there, and there wasn't a ton of striking. I mean, you can go back and you can avoid that. You can skip that one. And then Odie Osborne getting the win versus CJ Vergara. I don't know. mean, it was a close fight, and Vergara dominated the third round, so it was really that second round. I mean, you can look at the stats for yourself. Hey, again, this is another one that you can skip. I watched it. It's not a robbery by any stretch of the imagination. But if you want to give it to Vergara, then also fine. That is it. That's the last one. And like I said at the top of this, Canelo Alvarez won again. It was a decent fight. I watched the highlights. I did not watch the whole thing. I was watching the UFC at the time. And then when I saw that he knocked him out in the 10th round or 11th round or whatever, I was like, there's no reason for me to go back and watch. And nobody was saying that it was like one of the greatest fights ever. They're just like, hey, look how good Canelo is. I already know how good Canelo is. I've seen him fight. He's really good. Call me when he fights somebody that is at his level. Right? I'm not saying he's not that much better than his talent, or I don't think he's doing anything wrong. His management might be. Maybe they're protecting him against the fighter that I'm not certain or aware of or whatever. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to tune into boxing, which is not my favorite sport. MMA is. I enjoy combat sports, and I will watch boxing. Obviously, I watched Tyson Fury fight because I love watching him fight. But Canelo, on the other hand, and actually that's not true. I did not watch every Tyson Fury fight, and I didn't watch every Deontay Wilder fight, because when they're putting them up against people that I know that don't present a major challenge, I'm not going to sit there and watch. Like, if an upset happens, I'll go back and rewatch it to see what happened, like the Usyk versus Anthony Joshua fight. But I'm not going to go back. I'm not going to sit there for 3 hours and watch a subpar or mediocre card to watch one of the greats of all time fight live, and he beats up on some guy. Like, yes, when you're watching it live, things can happen and it's amazing and all. But also, the UFC was on at the same time, and this was one of those cards where I had to watch it live because I couldn't miss what was going on. I do not regret it. This was one of the best cards in recent memory. Not of all time, but in recent memory. I think like 202 or 198, 199. Those are some of the best cards I can think of in history. It is so crazy that I'm talking about cards that were over 68 cards ago. Holy crap, we're almost at UFC 300. Oh my goodness. Holy that's bananas to me. Oh. Like I don't feel old or anything. It's not one of those things. It's more like, how do I put this in perspective for people who haven't been MMA fans, especially UFC fans, for 10, 20 years, whatever. It is crazy to me to think back to when I was younger, watching the UFC then, being this, not underground, it was well known and popular and all, but being this pay-per-view only, being on Spike TV, kind of still like lesser known sport that was not, again, it's always going to be frowned upon by people who are uptight or don't like fighting in general. And more power to them. I'm sure they got their reasons, but whatever. I enjoy sports. This is a sport. I enjoy competition. I think the rules are in play. Like, most of the rules are pretty good. A few rule changes that we can all say should happen. But for the most part, I think that the way that modern MMA is set up and takes place, dude, it's crazy. It's what I'm trying to say about that is, like, I think it's safe isn't the right word, because you're trying to cause concussions. It's more like controlled. Let's put it that way. I think it's controlled very well for the most part. But to think back 10 years ago doesn't seem like much has changed. But John Jones was champion. John Jones was active. He's fighting Glover for the belt. Maybe that was back in 2015, so not 10 years ago, but 6. But 10 years ago, man, that doesn't seem that different. But 15 years ago, 16 years ago, now we're talking about, like, Chuck Liddell. That feels like a different age. That feels like a totally different sport. That's what that I'm trying to put in perspective is like for people who didn't watch this 15 years ago, I don't think they understand how much different the sport has become, like how much different fighting is in general. Not just how mainstream it is, because obviously it's on ESPN now. It was on Fox for the longest time. Just how advanced the technique is and how we've really whittled down some of the best techniques in fighting, and how just these guys are doing things that you take some of these mediocre fighters from today and plant them 15 years ago, and they would be one of the greatest of all time. That's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, they'd probably have to like interact with people like GSP and Anderson Silva and stuff, and probably still lose to them because they're all-time greats for a reason, and I think they transcend their eras. But it's just the level of skill has elevated so much. It's crazy. All right. Next weekend, the 13th, we got Max Holloway fighting Yeager Rodriguez. This is like a 90-10 fight for me, where Yeager could do some crazy bullshit and catch Max Holloway and win like he did against the Korean Zombie, Chang Sung Jung. So that could happen. I would probably say it's like 95% Max Holloway. There's no logical reason why Max Holloway shouldn't win this fight. Like, he should put a beating on Yeager, and in an impressive fashion, he should style on him. And we got Ben Rothwell taking on Marcus Rogerio de Lima. It's heavyweights are sloppy. Ben Rothwell could, he fights weird and awkward and slow and stuff, so he might be able to win this one. Lima's like a hard-hitting guy and does some strike. I don't know. Felicia Spencer's coming back for some reason. I'm just kidding. She's a featherweight. I don't know what her plans are. She's fighting Leah Letson. Okay. What's Spencer gonna do? Come back and fight Amanda Nunes again? I don't think so. It's featherweight. Doesn't exist. Philippe Lenz versus Ovin St. Preux at light heavyweight. There we go. That's a fun one. OSP, the gatekeeper at light heavyweight. You can't beat OSP, you're not going to fight for a title. You can? We'll see. Kyle Dawkins making a quick turnaround against Kevin Holland. Oh, that's going to be a banger. That's going to be so much fun. Song Yadong. Yes. Julio Arce. Thiago Moises, who's ranked number 15 in the world. God, this guy's so good. That's why Islam Makhachev is so highly ranked, because he beat Thiago. Holy crap. I'm just kidding. He's a good fighter. Cynthia Calvillo fighting Andrea Lee. Never been high on Calvillo. Miguel Beza. Liana Joshua versus Courtney Casey, who is now 9-9. This is going to be her possible losing record fight. Mark Casey versus Rafael Alves. Chukwu versus Zhang. That's going to be a weird fight at light heavyweight. Anyway, that's it. We're going to call it quits on there. So if you made it all the way in, I love you. You're the best. Please like, subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the fights. Please tell me, what did you think about UFC 268? Do you think Usman deserved the win? Do you think it should have been a draw? How much do you hate Colby Covington? Do you hate him because of his attitude, or do you really just dislike his fighting style too? Like, do you think he's not a good fighter? I really don't understand that, but please make your argument. What did you think about the co-main event? Did you think that Rose actually got the fight, or got the win? Should have got the win? Do you think that there was a robbery there? And then, how good is Justin Gaethje? Just tell me how good he is, right? I don't want to hear anything he's not good, because of course he is. He's awesome. He's one of the best fighters in the world. He's probably the second best lightweight in the world, if not the best at any given time, because Khabib is no longer there. So please like, subscribe, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. And we'll talk about the fight night next week. And until then, have a great week, guys. Love y'all.